Welcome to today's mini course, Navigating Contract Changes in Construction Management. My name's Cory Fisk, and I'm the founder of Construction Management Online. What we're doing in this Skillbuilder mini course is identifying how to control the changes that occur while we're building a construction project. The changes are going to come to you in all kinds of different ways, and you have to be able to identify what the initial instruction has been in order to be able to define what starts a change and how you can then track it through the entire construction process. So we'll go ahead and start by reviewing the learning objectives. We're going to grasp the flexible terminology and interchangeable language that can sometimes be used in the construction industry. We're going to recognize how changes are first identified through various job site communications and documents. And then we're going to learn how to document those changes using RFIs, proposed change orders, change requests, and supplemental instructions. We're going to learn how to handle time and material sheets and field work orders and directives that also signify change in a construction project. And we're going to update the contract continuously through as-built and approved change orders. Understanding the proposal, review, and approval processes for change orders is going to be essential in your successful management of your construction project. So to look at the course overview, again, welcome to another essential mini course designed for new construction managers, focusing on understanding and managing the various documents that can lead to changes in the construction contract. Change is an inevitable part of the construction process, and effectively managing these changes is crucial for project success. This course is divided into 4 comprehensive sections, each dedicated to a different type of document that can initiate contract changes, including request for information, proposed change orders, change requests, and architectural supplement instructions. Now, before we get started, I just want to put a little disclaimer out there, is that in the construction industry, one of the reasons that it makes it hard to learn some of the terminology is because it's not as consistent as we would like it to be from project to project. Now, there's a lot of reasons why this is. All architects kind of do things a little bit differently. We talk different lingo if it's an industrial project versus a commercial project versus a residential project. And so because of this, sometimes the terminology and language that we use gets misused or misunderstood. And so I just want to bring out like the fact, for instance, of an architectural supplement instruction. This is something that we're going to talk about in the class, but it literally can have 3 or 4 different acronyms that are addressing the exact same document. It's just being called something different. So there are times in this discussion that I need you to be a little bit flexible and focus more on the document itself and not necessarily the name of the document. Once you get on the job site that you're working on, they will make all of the document names very clear, and you will be able to work off of that from that point on. But don't be surprised that if you go to another project, that some of that terminology has changed. So starting with section 1, introduction to change. Nothing is certain in the construction industry except that we know things will change. So if anything that we do know, it is that things are going to change. And one of the hardest things to nail down is the terminology used for those different processes. It will be important for you to remain flexible in your thinking so that when you get into a job, you will be able to categorize and match definitions with the language that's being used on the job site. With this interchangeable language, often many of these terms are going to be used whether correctly or incorrectly, and this may cause confusion, especially for someone new coming into the industry, trying to navigate contractual clarity among some of these documents. So examples could be a PCO or proposed change order, and a CR or change request might be called a change order, or it could be called a proposed change estimate. And so we just want to really stay aware of the different acronyms or terminology that's being used. Changes are first identified or revealed through basically a conversation on the job site. Hey, we have a problem. A contractor coordination meeting is going to bring up some of those issues. Maybe it comes in an email, a daily report, a letter of correspondence, or maybe even a memo of concern from the inspector. We'd like to be able to see it come in the form of a request for information so that we can send that to the party who knows best how to interpret and how to move forward and help resolve the issue or problem. So regardless of how the change is brought to light, it is critical to be used as the foundational document to string any future correspondence to link all evidence supporting that change. Now, I'll talk about this just for a second because I just went through this with a client the other day, and they were talking to me about how it took them almost a full day of work to try to go back and identify who made the directive and approved them to move forward with a change order. If the change order has already been established, then that means that that document or that information should have already been identified and put on to that proposed change request, or change order. So for it to have moved through the approval process all of that time with no one addressing the initial onset of what this alerted us of this problem or requested this change to be made was a huge mistake. And so it wasted a lot of time. So from the very beginning, if we can identify that, George in meeting September 11th, 1923, it was a long time ago, if he identified that change order needs to be established and that we got approval to be able to move forward that after submitting an estimate on September 17th, then we were able to move forward. And that's why we started doing the work. This is why we're now asking for payment for services rendered. And so all of that is just really important. Of any time there is a document that's associated with that change order, proposed change order, change request, we want it packaged in there because that is going to be backup evidence and detail for why there is legitimacy to this particular change. So understanding the different ways to document change. Now, we're going to get into the different types of documents, and this is really important because a lot of people misunderstand what a change order is. They believe that a change order is inclusive of all changes that happen on a project, and that is true, except for a change order is the approved format of what has been packaged as evidence to move that change forward. So let's explain. An introduction to RFIs. So a request for information is going to be a document that is providing clarity. It's asking for why is this particular issue a problem? Now, at this point in time, we don't know if it has a cost or time associated with it. And one thing that we need to make clear is that these, again, are documenting changes in our living document of our living contract. And so whether it's a monetary change or a time impact change, positive or negative or neutral, it all needs to be documented. And so that's one thing that we need to make very clear, that even if you're changing the paint color, this RFI needs to document what the new paint color is, because that's going to be very important to the end user of this particular project. So in this RFI, we don't know if there's any monetary or time change, but we know that we have to document it. And so we're asking for clarification, and it's typically the contractor asking for the architect to clarify information that's provided in the drawings. And so the architect will come back and provide a response to the clarification requested by the contractor. Now, in that response, it typically has the potential of identifying a cost or a time change. So that's when there's going to be a proposed change order submitted by the contractor. So now the contractor is going to, on their document, identify the RFI number and send back a proposed change order to the construction manager and let them know that the resulting resolution provided by the architect is going to be an increase in time or money to the contract. And so they are submitting this proposed change for this amount. Okay, then once that is reviewed, and if it is approved, then it moves to a change order. That change order can have one proposed change order, or it can have a package of proposed change orders that then are provided in a change order that is submitted to a finance board or a board of supervisors or a school board that are going to then approve those additional costs to the project. Okay. Now that's different than a change request. A change request isn't something that necessarily has to be documented with an RFI. A change request is typically coming from the owner, and it's that they've seen something that they want to add or remove from the contract documents. And so they have submitted a change request to the contractor and asked the contractor to provide them with an idea of what the budget impact or time impact for the scope of work that they've requested to be done. And the contractor then responds to that, and then the owner either approves it or not, and then they move that into a change order. So those are both different than supplement instructions. Supplement instructions are going to come from an architect. They may also be called an ASI, a CIC, change in contract. So there's a number of different acronyms that might be used for this particular tool that the architect uses to provide additional information that they had hoped would make it into the contract documents. Somehow it did not. They can see that it's necessary in order to move the project forward, and or there are parts in that architectural supplement instruction that are supplementing work that is in the contract and additional modifications that have been requested by the owner. And so the architect might put out this supplemental instruction, which resembles very much an addenda possibly, but it is after the contract's been awarded. And so this most likely is going to generate a proposed change order from the contractor, identifying potential time and cost associated with the supplemental information that's been provided. Then we're going to move to a change in condition, which again is the same basically as a supplement instruction, but it is just 2 degrees different, slightly removed, as it is identifying changes in a condition. So where an architectural supplement instruction is providing additional data, the change in condition is changing a situation or a scope of work in the moment of the project and moving that forward. And so then again, it's going to be on the contractor to determine if there's a proposed change request that needs to be generated in response to the change in condition. Then we have bulletins, which are going to be similar to ASIs. The thing to remember on this, as all of these documents, as they're being approved through these processes, need to be being put as-built into the specifications and the drawings, so that you're constantly updating your contract documents and keeping that living contractual document up to date. So in section 3, other changes, you might see things like time and material or work field directives. Now, these are interesting. These are typically because of things that we feel are missing from the contract, or there is some type of a disagreement or not in agreement of it being contractual work of a certain party. And so when we're looking at time and material, this could be something where we know that it has to be done in order for the other contractual work to proceed, but we don't really know who we're going to hold responsible for it, and we don't have time to fight about it. And so a directive will be provided for the contractor to move forward so that the work can stay fluent and keep the project running. Then what the contractor is going to be doing is documenting through time and material sheets the time that it takes to do the work in labor and equipment, the type of equipment that's being used, and any material costs that are associated with that. Now, that should be signed daily by an authorized signator, confirming that the time and the equipment and the material being used on said time and material sheet has been approved. Or let me rephrase that. It's not approved of the scope of work. It's approving that that time, material, and equipment were there when the contractor said they were there. It is not approving whatever is in dispute at the time that the time and material sheets are going through and documenting. And so that's what we use time and material sheets for, is simply the documentation of the time and the work that took place in order to complete this item that is under dispute. And when we have time, we'll go back and sift through all of the contractual documents and figure out whose responsibility it was, or if there needs to be a change order that's going to address that. And then we have a field work directive. So we do have construction managers that have significant experience, and because of this, they have the confidence of the owner and of the individuals that they're representing. And so they may be able to approve on the spot changes in work that are happening out on the job site in order to keep the project moving. This is difficult because a lot of times this is the old school handshake. Yes, we all agree. I personally don't like to do it that way, and make sure that we at least identify on the project as built that there has been a order to proceed but not exceed, and that we all sign and initial the scope of work for that particular part of the work that's being given a field directive. Then construction managers, you go back to the trailer and you send off an email, or you send off a field work directive at that moment explaining the scope of work, the responsibilities, and the expectations and boundaries of it, so that when the cost comes in, it's very clear of what is going to fall within that particular field directive. So, becoming part of the living contract, we have to understand that the contract is going to be our contractual contract that we sign, but it also has the attached documents of specifications or instructions and the contractual drawings. And so these are going to require being updated whenever there is a change to the contract. And again, as said before, that change doesn't always have to be a positive or negative monetary or time impact. It could also be a neutral. It could be the changing of a color. It could be the changing of another color. I can't think of another example right now, but it can be neutral. It can be something that really doesn't have an impact to the project, but we still want to make sure that it's been documented. Okay, so when we do move forward with that proposed change order or change request and move it into a change order, it is now in a position of being approved by the individuals responsible for the financial feasibility of that project. And so once that has gone through that approval process, then we want to make sure that it's made it into our as-builts. We also want to make sure that whoever is signing that approval process is an authorized signator to ensure that the right people are responding to the change orders that we submit. Guidance on the process of proposing, reviewing, and approving change orders is really going to be something that we're going to find in our specifications. And so we'll learn how to document and negotiate changes to ensure that all parties are in agreement on the adjustments to the contract terms, including any project costs and timeline impacts. So, having completed this mini course, you're now well equipped to navigate the complexities of contract changes in construction projects. You understand the various documents that can initiate these changes and possess the knowledge to manage them effectively, ensuring clear communication, proper documentation, and mutual agreement between all parties involved. Embrace these insights as tools to guide you through the dynamic landscape of construction management, where adaptability and precision lead to successful project outcomes. Thank you again for joining us for another mini class here with Skillbuilder, and we will see you in the next course.